Welcome to Monk's Temple. Find a place where you can be still for a while. Maybe you are lying down, the covers pulled up, the world outside finally quiet. Maybe you are sitting in a soft chair, a cup of tea growing cold beside you. Wherever you are, you have arrived. You have crossed a threshold into a space of awareness. A space where we can ask the biggest questions together, softly, gently, without pressure to find the right answer. Tonight, we explore a question that has haunted humanity since we first became self-aware. What is real? What is this world? And more importantly, what are we? We live assuming we know. We assume the blue of the sky is out there. We assume the hardness of the chair is a property of the chair. We assume my voice travels through the air and lands in your ears. It seems so obvious, so solid. But what if the Buddha, sitting under the Bodhi tree over 2,500 years ago, realized something that shatters this assumption? What if the world you think you are living in is not the world at all? This is not philosophy. This is a practical investigation into your experience, right now. The Buddha's answer is both simple and liberating. He did not talk about God creating the world. He did not theorize about particles of matter. He pointed to something far closer. He pointed to the space between you and the world, and said, "Look here." The answer is in the meeting. Before we dive into this deep water, let us settle the boat. Take 3 conscious breaths. Just 3. Inhale, feeling the air fill you. Exhale, letting go of the need to figure anything out. Inhale, releasing tension in your shoulders. Exhale, arriving fully, right here, right now. Just this breath. Just this moment. There is a story about a man named Thomas, a mapmaker. Thomas spent his career creating detailed maps of national parks. He hiked for days, measuring every trail, every stream. His maps were trusted by thousands. One day, after retiring, he hiked a park he had mapped decades ago. He carried his own map. 2 hours in, he came to a clearing with a small, pristine lake. He checked his map. According to it, this spot was dense forest. There was no lake. He spent an hour checking his bearings, convinced he was lost. How could the master mapmaker be so wrong? Finally, he sat on a rock by the shore, put his map away, and just looked at the lake. He watched light dance on the water. He listened to birds. He felt the cool breeze. And a strange thought occurred to him. He had spent his whole life focused on the map that he had forgotten to look at reality itself. He had confused the map for the territory. This is the human condition. We all carry a map of reality in our heads, drawn from the day we were born. Our parents, teachers, culture, and language gave us the lines and labels. This is a tree. This is water. This is hard. This is you. This is me. We trust this map implicitly. We believe the labels are the things themselves. But the Buddha's teaching is an invitation to put the map down. To look at the territory with fresh eyes. To question the assumption that what we think we are seeing is actually what is there. If you find value in questioning the map and exploring the territory of your own mind, please subscribe to Monk's Temple. By subscribing, you join a community committed to waking up, to looking deeper. It is a small act that helps these explorations continue. Just click subscribe. Thank you. To question our map, we must understand how we gather information. How does the territory enter our experience? The Buddha, with psychological precision, identified 6 doorways through which all reality passes to become known to us. He called them the 6 sense bases. The first 5 are familiar: the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, and the body. Through the eyes, we encounter forms and colors. Through the ears, sounds. Through the nose, smells. Through the tongue, tastes. Through the body, touch. But the Buddha identified a 6th doorway, often overlooked: the mind. Not a mystical soul, but the faculty that thinks, remembers, imagines, and plans. It is the doorway through which we encounter thoughts, memories, ideas, and mental images. 6 doors. And corresponding to each, a world of objects. Sights, sounds, smells, tastes, touches, and thoughts. This seems simple. But here the Buddha's insight turns our world upside down. We assume these doors are passive receivers. We assume sights exist out there, independent of our eyes, and our eyes just let them in. The Buddha said no. Reality is not a pre-existing thing waiting to be found. It is a process. It is an event. It arises at the meeting of the door and the world. Imagine you are a radio. The music does not exist inside the radio. It does not exist inside the broadcasting tower. The music arises when the radio's receiver meets the signal. Without the radio, the signal is just silent waves. Without the signal, the radio is just static. The music is the event of their meeting. In the same way, what we call reality is not the world of objects out there. It is the world of sensations that arise at the 6 doors. It is the event of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and thinking. This event happens moment by moment, faster than we can imagine. Each moment of contact is a fresh creation, a new reality. We are not living in a static world. We are living in a river of events, each one born from the meeting of a sense door and its object. Let me tell you a story about a woman named Elena. Elena was a pastry chef, a true artist with sugar and flour. Her sense of taste was extraordinarily refined. She could identify a dozen different spices in a single bite. She took great pride in her palate. One year, she came down with a severe sinus infection and a high fever. For 3 days, she was bedridden. On the 4th day, feeling a little better, she asked her husband to bring her a spoonful of her favorite dessert, a lemon tart she had made just before getting sick. He brought it to her, and she took a small bite. She immediately grimaced. It tasted like nothing. It was bland, chalky, flavorless. She was devastated. She thought, my gift is gone. I have lost my palate forever. She spent the rest of the day in despair. The next morning, her fever broke completely. She went to the kitchen, saw the lemon tart on the counter, and hesitantly took another bite. And there it was. The bright, sharp burst of lemon. The sweetness of the meringue. The buttery crunch of the crust. It was all back. Her palate was fine. What had happened? While she was sick with the fever, her tongue, the door, was inflamed and not functioning properly. The lemon tart, the object, was still there. But the event of tasting could not occur. The reality of the lemon tart's flavor did not exist for her during those days of fever. It was not that the flavor was out there and she could not reach it. The flavor, as an experience, as a reality, was simply not arising. It was dependent on the meeting of her healthy tongue and the tart. This is what the Buddha pointed to. The sweetness is not in the sugar. The sweetness is not in your tongue. The sweetness is an event, a sensation, that arises when the two meet. We spend our lives chasing sweetness, pleasure, satisfaction, as if it were a property of things. We think, if I can just get that car, that house, that person, then I will be happy. But the Buddha's insight reveals that happiness, like the taste of the lemon, is not a thing to be acquired. It is a sensation to be understood. And like all sensations, it is impermanent, arising and passing away in the very moment of contact. If reality, the only reality we ever directly know, is made of sensations, what are they? The Buddha categorized all sensations into three basic types. Think of them as the three primary colors on the palette of your inner experience. The first type is pleasant sensation. This is the feeling you have when something agreeable contacts your senses. The warmth of the sun on your skin. The taste of dark chocolate melting on your tongue. The sound of a loved one's laughter. The mental ease of a problem solved. When a pleasant sensation arises, the mind's natural, untrained reaction is to grasp at it, to want it to stay, to crave more of it. This is the root of attachment. The second type is unpleasant sensation. This is the feeling of something disagreeable. The ache in your lower back after sitting too long. The sharpness of criticism. The dull weight of boredom. The pang of loneliness. When an unpleasant sensation arises, the mind's reaction is to push it away, to resist it, to want it to end. This is the root of aversion and fear. The third type is neutral sensation. This is the feeling of neither pleasure nor pain. It is the sensation of your left foot against the floor. The hum of the refrigerator in the background. The feeling of a neutral thought, like remembering you need to buy milk. This is the most common sensation, and the most ignored. The mind, bored by neutrality, often tries to escape it by seeking out pleasant sensations or by worrying about potential unpleasant ones. It is the background static of existence. Here is the crucial point. We do not just experience these sensations and move on. We build entire lives around them. We build careers, relationships, and identities based on the pursuit of pleasant sensations and the avoidance of unpleasant ones. We spend our energy, our money, our very life force, trying to arrange the world so that we only ever feel the first type, and never the second. But the world is not cooperative. Pleasant sensations, by their very nature, are impermanent. They arise and they pass away. And when they pass away, if we have been grasping at them, we experience suffering. Unpleasant sensations also arise and pass, but if we have been resisting them, we suffer. The entire cycle of suffering is powered by this fundamental mistake. Our reaction to sensation. Now, the Buddha's teaching is not that we should become numb, that we should stop feeling pleasure or pain. That is impossible. The teaching is about changing our relationship to sensation. It is about learning to see the sensation clearly, without immediately launching into the habit of grasping or pushing away. It is about creating a small space between the sensation and our reaction to it. In that small space, freedom becomes possible. In that small space, you are no longer a puppet pulled by strings of pleasure and pain. You become an observer, a witness, watching the show of sensations arise and pass, without getting caught in the drama. And in that witnessing, a deep peace begins to emerge. A peace that is not dependent on things being a certain way. A peace that comes from within, from the simple act of seeing clearly. This is the beginning of the path. This is the first step toward waking up from the dream. I recall a story about a carpenter named George. George was a master of his craft, but he was also a man who carried a lot of old anger. He had been hurt in his youth, and he held on to those grievances like precious tools. He would often say, "People have wronged me, and I will never forget it." The memories of these wrongs were sharp and clear, and every time he recalled them, he would feel a familiar burning sensation in his chest. He called it his righteous anger, and he believed it was justified by the actions of others. One day, while planing a piece of oak, a large splinter drove itself deep into his palm. It was a nasty wound. He spent an hour trying to dig it out with a needle, wincing in pain. For days afterward, his hand was swollen and throbbing. Every time he tried to work, the pain would flare up, reminding him of the injury. He cursed the splinter, cursed the oak, cursed the day he decided to work with that particular piece of wood. Then, one evening, his granddaughter, a little girl of about 6, was visiting. She saw him holding his hand, looking miserable. "What is wrong, Grandpa?" she asked. He showed her the swollen palm and explained about the splinter. The little girl looked at it closely, then looked up at him with her clear, innocent eyes, and said, "Grandpa, why are you so mad at the wood? The splinter is gone. You got it out. Your hand is just still sad about it." George was stunned. He looked at his palm. She was right. The splinter was gone. The cause of the initial pain was no longer there. What remained was just the residual inflammation, the body's memory of the injury. But he had been treating it as if the splinter was still there, as if the oak was still attacking him. In that moment, he had a profound insight about his old angers. The people who had wronged him were long gone from his life. The events were decades in the past. The splinters of their actions had been removed long ago. But he was still carrying the inflammation. He was still reacting to the sensation of the old wound as if it were a current attack. His righteous anger was just a sensation in his chest, a memory in his body, that he kept re-inflaming by paying attention to it, by feeding it with his thoughts. This is the human tragedy. We mistake the residual sensation for the original event. We think we are responding to the world, but we are actually just reacting to our own feelings. George was not suffering because of what people did to him decades ago. He was suffering because of the sensation of anger he was generating in the present moment, based on a memory. The event was a memory, a mental object. And the sensation it produced was a present moment reality. He was trapped, not by his past, but by his relationship to the sensations of the present. This is what the Buddha meant when he said that the root of suffering is not in the world, but in our craving and our aversion. The world out there, the past events, they are gone. What remains are the sensations we generate here and now, in response to memories, in response to thoughts, in response to the endless stream of mental objects. And it is these sensations, these present moment realities, that we must learn to understand. So how do we work with this? How do we begin to see the difference between the sensation and the story we attach to it? The practice begins with attention. Simple, gentle, non-judgmental attention to whatever is arising in this moment. If you are feeling anger, do not try to make it go away. Do not tell yourself you should not be angry. Do not rehearse the story of why you are right to be angry. Just feel the sensation. Where is it in your body? Is it in your chest? Your jaw? Your shoulders? What does it actually feel like? Is it tight? Is it hot? Is it pulsing? Just stay with the physical sensation. Let the story fade into the background. The story is about the past. The story is about them. But the sensation is here, now. And it is yours to observe. If you can do this, even for a few seconds, you have created that small space of freedom. You have broken the chain of automatic reaction. You have seen that the anger is not you. It is just a passing guest, a weather pattern in the mind. And like all weather, it will pass. This is the laboratory of mindfulness. It is available to you at any moment. In the middle of a difficult conversation. In the middle of traffic. In the middle of the night when old memories arise. You can always come back to the body, to the direct sensation, and simply observe. You do not need to figure anything out. You do not need to solve anything. You just need to be present, like a scientist observing an experiment, curious and open. And in that presence, something shifts. The sensation loses its grip. It becomes just energy, just vibration, just another arising and passing phenomenon in the vast field of awareness. And you, the observer, remain still, quiet, free. Let me tell you a story about a photographer named David. David was a landscape photographer, always chasing the perfect light. He would hike for miles to remote locations, wake up at 3 in the morning, and wait for hours for that one moment when the sunrise would paint the mountains in golden hues. He lived for those moments of intense, beautiful, pleasant sensation. He had a colleague, an older photographer named Sarah, who was his mentor. One day, they were on a shoot together in a vast, beautiful valley. The light was perfect. David was in heaven, clicking away, completely absorbed in the beauty. After about an hour, the sun rose higher, the light became harsh and flat, and the magic was gone. David packed up his gear, feeling a familiar twinge of disappointment. The pleasant sensation was over. He looked over at Sarah. She was still sitting on a rock, her camera in her lap, looking out at the valley. She was not taking pictures anymore. The good light was gone. But she was just sitting there, looking. David walked over. "What are you looking at?" he asked. "The light is gone. It is just a regular valley now." Sarah smiled. "David," she said, "for you, the light is only good when it is golden. For me, the light is always interesting. This flat, midday light is perfect for revealing texture. It shows the cracks in the rocks, the patterns in the dirt, the way the trees are actually shaped without the shadows to disguise them. It is a different kind of beauty, but it is still beauty. You just have to learn to see it." David sat down next to her and looked again. He tried to see what she saw. At first, it just looked dull, neutral. But as he kept looking, he started to notice things. The intricate patterns in the bark of a nearby tree. The way a small stream cut a path through the pebbles. the subtle variations of green in the grass. It was not the dramatic, breathtaking beauty of the sunrise. It was a quieter, more subtle, more intimate beauty. It was the beauty of neutral sensation, seen with attention. David had spent his whole life addicted to the golden hour, to the peak pleasant sensation. He had dismissed the rest of the day as worthless. Sarah taught him that the neutral ground, the vast territory of experience that is neither pleasant nor unpleasant, is not an empty wasteland. It is a rich and subtle world, waiting to be explored. And in learning to be present with the neutral, we stop needing to constantly chase the pleasant and flee the unpleasant. We find a deeper kind of contentment, one that is not dependent on conditions. This is a profound teaching. Most of our lives are lived in the neutral zone. Most of our moments are neither intensely pleasurable nor intensely painful. They are just neutral. And yet, we are rarely present for them. We are always reaching for the next pleasant hit, or worrying about the next possible pain. We miss the vast majority of our own lives. The practice of mindfulness invites us to come home to the neutral, to discover the richness that is already here, hidden in plain sight. Now we come to a deeper layer of the Buddha's teaching. For an experience to occur, three things must come together. First, there must be a sense door that is capable of functioning. A healthy eye. A healthy ear. Second, there must be an object present at that door. A form within the field of vision. A sound within earshot. Third, there must be the contact between the two. The eye must turn towards the form. The ear must receive the vibration. When these three things come together, the internal sense base, the external sense object, and the contact between them, then and only then does consciousness arise. And with that consciousness arises the corresponding sensation. This is the radical teaching. Consciousness is not a thing that pre-exists, waiting to perceive objects. It is an event. It is a byproduct of contact. It arises moment by moment, depending on conditions. Think of it like a flame. A flame is not a thing that exists independently. It is an event that arises when fuel, oxygen, and heat come together. Change the fuel, and the flame changes. Remove the oxygen, and the flame ceases. The flame has no independent existence. In the same way, your visual consciousness of these words has no independent existence. It is an event, arising right now, depending on your functioning eyes, the light reflecting off the screen, and the contact between them. This has profound implications. It means that the seer is not a permanent, solid self. It is a series of seeing events. The hearer is a series of hearing events. The thinker is a series of thinking events. There is no one behind the scenes, watching the movie. There is just the movie, arising and passing away, moment after moment. This is the meaning of anatta, or non-self. It is not that you do not exist. It is that what you call you is a process, a flowing river of consciousness events, not a fixed, solid statue. And when we see this directly, not just as an idea but as a living truth, the grip of the ego begins to loosen. We stop clinging so tightly to this ever-changing flow. We rest, instead, in the vast awareness in which all these events arise and pass. I knew a woman named Susan, a competitive swimmer who had just missed qualifying for the Olympics by a fraction of a second. She was devastated. Her entire identity, for as long as she could remember, had been Susan the swimmer. It was who she was. It was herself. When she failed to qualify, she fell into a deep depression. She felt like she had lost herself. She came to talk to a mentor of mine, an old meditation teacher. She poured out her story, her grief, her sense of annihilation. She kept saying, "I do not know who I am anymore. I have lost myself." The teacher listened patiently. When she was finished, he asked her a simple question. "Susan, when you were a little girl, learning to swim, were you the same person you were when you were winning national championships at 18? "No," she said. "I was different then. Less skilled. Less experienced. And when you were 18, were you the same person you were yesterday, when you got the news about the Olympics?" She paused. "No. I feel completely different today than I did a week ago." The teacher smiled gently. "Susan, you have spent your life in rivers. You know that a river is not a static thing. It is always flowing, always changing. The water you see at this bend is not the same water that was here a moment ago. And yet, we give it a name. We call it the Mississippi, or the Amazon. The name is just a convenient label for a continuous process. You have been calling yourself Susan the swimmer. But that Susan was never a fixed thing. It was a process, a flow of experiences, of successes and failures, of training and resting, of hopes and fears. That flow continues. It has just changed. The water is now flowing over different rocks. The current is now moving in a different direction. But it is still a river. It is still you, the process. You have not lost yourself. You have just mistaken a wave for the entire ocean. This was a liberating insight for Susan. She saw that her suffering came not from losing her identity, but from clinging to a fixed idea of who she was. She had been trying to hold the river still. The Buddha's teaching on non-self is not a cold, nihilistic doctrine. It is a release from the suffering of trying to freeze the flowing water. It is an invitation to stop clinging to the waves and learn to be the vast, open ocean of awareness in which all waves arise and pass away. This is the heart of the practice. Not to become someone else, not to achieve a better version of yourself, but to see clearly what you have always been. A process. A flow. A river of sensations, thoughts, and perceptions, arising and passing in the vast space of awareness. And that awareness itself, the one that knows all this, is not touched by the flow. It is like the sky, through which clouds pass. The clouds come and go. The sky remains. So how do we bring this profound teaching down from the clouds of philosophy and into our daily lives? How do we make it practical, actionable, healing? The Buddha was a pragmatic doctor, not a speculative metaphysician. He gave us a method. He gave us a laboratory, and that laboratory is our own mind and body, in the present moment. The practice is simple, though not easy. It is to bring a gentle, sustained attention to the flow of sensation. To notice, as best you can, the arising and passing away of pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral feelings. You can start right now, wherever you are. Just bring your attention to your breath. Do not try to change it. Just feel the physical sensation of the air entering your nostrils. Is it cool? That is a pleasant or neutral sensation. Feel the sensation of your chest or belly rising. Feel the sensation of the air leaving, perhaps a little warmer. Is that pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral? As you do this, thoughts will arise. This is boring. Am I doing this right? I wonder what is for dinner. Do not fight the thoughts. Just notice that thinking is also a sensation, a mental sensation. Notice the feeling tone of the thought. Is thinking about dinner a pleasant sensation? Is the thought that this is boring an unpleasant sensation? Just notice. This is the laboratory. You are no longer just believing your thoughts. You are observing them as events, as sensations, arising and passing away in the field of awareness. You are beginning to see the difference between the sensation itself and your reaction to it. You see the unpleasant sensation of boredom arise, and then you see the mind's reaction, wanting it to go away, reaching for distraction. In that moment of seeing, you have a choice. You can follow the old habit of reaction, or you can simply stay with the unpleasant sensation, observing it, letting it be there without trying to push it away. And if you do that, you will discover something remarkable. Unpleasant sensations, when not resisted, lose their power. They arise, they may stay for a while, but eventually, they pass away. They are impermanent. They are not you. This is the beginning of freedom. Freedom from the tyranny of automatic reaction. Freedom from being a puppet pulled by the strings of pleasure and pain. You are becoming the witness. And the witness is free. Let me share two quick stories that illustrate this difference between sensation and reaction. The first is about a little boy named Leo. Leo was at a birthday party, and he was given a huge bowl of his favorite ice cream. He ate it with incredible speed and joy. It was pure pleasant sensation. But he ate it so fast that he gave himself a brain freeze, that sharp, shooting pain in his head. The look on his face was pure agony for about 10 seconds. Then it passed, and he immediately asked for more ice cream. Leo experienced a very intense unpleasant sensation. But he did not make up a story about it. He did not think, oh no, ice cream is dangerous. I must never eat ice cream again. This pain means the universe is against me. He just felt the pain, it passed, and he went back to the pleasure. He experienced the sensation without adding the second arrow of mental reaction. The second story is about a man named Richard. Richard was sitting in a meditation hall, trying to practice mindfulness. He developed a powerful itch on his nose. It was an unpleasant sensation. His first reaction was the old habit. He wanted to scratch it immediately. But he was trying to practice, so he decided to just observe the itch. He noticed that the sensation of itching was not one solid thing. It was a collection of tingling, burning, pulsing feelings. He noticed the mind's desperate desire to scratch. He noticed the tension in his arm as it prepared to move. He stayed with it, just observing. And then, something strange happened. The itch, which he had been observing for maybe 2 minutes, suddenly vanished. It did not fade. It just disappeared, like a bubble popping. In its place was a moment of incredible clarity and peace. He saw, directly, that the itch was not him. It was just a passing guest. And the suffering of the itch was not the itch itself, but the wanting it to go away. When he stopped wanting it to go away, the itch was just a sensation, and sensations, when not resisted, are not particularly painful. They are just energy. Leo and Richard. One a child, one an adult. One reacting without a story, one observing without reacting. Both pointing to the same truth. Freedom lies not in controlling the world of sensation, but in changing our relationship to it. This is the essence of the Buddha's teaching on the two arrows. The Buddha once asked his students, if an archer shoots you with an arrow, does it hurt? They said yes. He then asked, if a second archer shoots you with another arrow, at the same spot, does it hurt even more? Yes, greatly so, they replied. The first arrow is the unavoidable pain of life. It is the difficult situation itself. The itch. The brain freeze. The disappointment. The loss. This first arrow is part of the human condition. We cannot always prevent it from being shot. The second arrow is the one we shoot ourselves. It is the story we add on top of the pain. It is the self-judgment. It is the I should not feel this way. It is the why does this always happen to me? It is the shame, the guilt, the anxiety about the future. The second arrow is our reaction to the first. And it is this second arrow that causes the vast majority of our suffering. In the context of deep listening, the second arrow is the experience of being met with silence, dismissal, or fixing when we are in pain. The pain of the situation is the first arrow. The pain of isolation, of feeling unheard and unseen in our suffering, is the devastating second arrow. Think of a time you shared something vulnerable with someone. Maybe you told a friend you were struggling with your mental health. And they responded with, "Oh, have you tried exercising more? That always helps me." On the surface, they are trying to help. But inside, you felt it. The sting of the second arrow. They did not see you. They saw a problem to be solved. They shot you with the arrow of invalidation, layering your original pain with the sharp, isolating feeling of not being understood. Now imagine a different scenario. You share the same vulnerable thing, and the person just looks at you. They do not offer advice. They do not try to fix it. They just nod, their eyes soft with understanding. They might simply say, "That sounds incredibly hard. I am here with you." In that moment, they are not shooting a second arrow. They are, in fact, standing beside you, helping you tend to the wound of the first. They are practicing deep listening. They are pulling out the arrow of isolation with the gentle hand of presence. The practice of being a true friend, a Dharma friend, is the practice of laying down our own quiver of arrows. It is the commitment to not add to another's pain with our judgments, our advice, our need to fix, or our inability to simply be present. It is learning to hold the space, to be the witness, to offer the gift of attention without the second arrow. And in that space, healing becomes possible. Not because we have solved anything, but because someone has finally seen us, just as we are. Now we need to be careful here. When the Buddha says that the world is an illusion, he is not saying that the tree in your backyard does not exist. He is not a nihilist. He is making a very precise distinction between two levels of reality. There is conventional reality. This is the world of trees and cars, of people and countries, of me and you. This is the reality we need to navigate our daily lives. If you step in front of a car, you will get hurt. The car, on a conventional level, is real. The Buddha never denied this. He was not crazy. But then there is ultimate reality. This is the reality of direct experience, before the mind adds its labels and concepts. On the ultimate level, there is no car. There is just the sensation of a large, hard, fast-moving object meeting the sensation of your body. There is no tree. There is just the sensation of brown, green, and the feeling of solidity. There is no me. There is just the ongoing process of seeing, hearing, feeling, and knowing. The problem arises when we confuse these two levels. We get so lost in the conventional reality, in the stories and labels, that we forget the living, breathing, ever-changing reality of sensation right under our noses. We argue with our spouse about who left the dishes in the sink, a conventional reality story, and we completely miss the unpleasant sensation of anger burning in our chest, the ultimate reality. We spend our lives fighting over the map, while the beautiful, mysterious territory of our own experience lies unexplored. I think of a story about an architect named Michael. Michael was designing a dream home for a client. He spent months on the blueprints, carefully planning every detail. The flow of the rooms. The placement of the windows. The materials. The blueprints were beautiful, precise works of art. He fell in love with the blueprints. When construction finally began, Michael was on site every day. But he grew increasingly frustrated. The reality of the construction was messy. The wood had knots in it. The light in the afternoon was not exactly as he had calculated. The drywall had seams. He kept pulling out his blueprints and pointing to them, saying, "This is not what I designed. This is wrong." His client, a wise old woman, finally took him aside. "Michael," she said, "the blueprints are not the house. They are just a guide. A house is made of real wood and real stone and real light. It will have knots. It will have shadows. It will be alive. If you keep comparing the house to the blueprint, you will never see the beauty of the house itself." Michael was stopped in his tracks. He looked at the house. He saw the grain in the wood. He saw the way the afternoon light actually fell across the floor, different from his calculation but beautiful in its own way. He saw the texture of the stone. He had been so in love with his mental image, his conventional reality of the house, that he was blind to the ultimate reality of the house being built before his eyes. We are all like Michael. We walk around with blueprints in our heads. Blueprints of how our partner should behave. How our career should progress. How our body should feel. How the world should be. And then we are constantly frustrated and disappointed when the living, breathing, messy reality does not match our perfect, static mental image. Our suffering is the gap between the blueprint and the house. The practice is to put down the blueprint, just for a moment, and actually see the house. To stop comparing and start experiencing. To trade the conventional reality of our expectations for the ultimate reality of what is. This does not mean we stop using blueprints altogether. We still need maps to navigate. We still need plans to build. But we hold them lightly. We know they are just guides, not the thing itself. We remain open to the knots in the wood, the unexpected shadows, the beautiful imperfections of real life. This is the path of the wise. To live in the world of convention, but to be grounded in the world of the ultimate. To use the map, but never confuse it with the territory. To hold our plans gently, with open hands, ready to receive the surprise of what actually arises. And in that openness, there is peace. There is freedom from the constant disappointment of unmet expectations. There is the simple joy of meeting each moment just as it is, not as we thought it should be. We have explored the world of sensation. We have seen how it arises, how it is categorized, how we react to it. But what is it that knows these sensations? What is this awareness that is reading these words right now? The Buddha described this awareness as having a nature like a clear mirror. A mirror does not hold on to the images it reflects. It does not judge them. It does not prefer beautiful faces over ugly ones. It just reflects, clearly and impartially, whatever is placed before it. As soon as the object is removed, the mirror is empty again, ready for the next reflection. Our true nature, the Buddha realized, is like this mirror. It is pure, clear awareness. But we have forgotten this. We have become so fascinated by the images in the mirror, the sensations, the thoughts, the feelings, that we have mistaken the images for the mirror itself. We think we are the images. We think we are our pleasant sensations, so we cling. We think we are our unpleasant sensations, so we fear. We have become completely identified with the ever-changing parade of experience, and we have lost touch with the unchanging, clear space in which the parade occurs. There is an old folk tale I love about a man who was terrified of his own shadow. He lived in constant fear. Everywhere he went, this dark figure followed him. He tried to outrun it. He tried to hide from it in dark rooms. He tried to stomp on it. Nothing worked. His shadow was always there, a source of constant anxiety and dread. Finally, in desperation, he went to a wise old woman who lived on the edge of the village. He poured out his story, his years of suffering because of this relentless pursuer. The wise woman listened patiently. When he was finished, she said, "I think I know a cure. But it is a difficult one. Are you willing to try?" "Yes, anything," the man cried. "Very well," she said. "Tonight, when the moon is full, go to the center of the large field. Stand there, and do not move. Do not run. Do not hide. Just stand still, and look at your shadow." The man was terrified, but he was also desperate. That night, he went to the field. His shadow stretched out long and dark in the moonlight. His first instinct was to flee. But he remembered the woman's words. He forced himself to stand still. He looked at his shadow. He kept looking. He noticed that the shadow was not doing anything. It was not attacking him. It was not even moving, except when he moved. It was just there. He stood there for an hour, just looking. And then, a strange peace settled over him. He realized that the shadow was not his enemy. It was not a separate monster. It was just an absence of light, a natural phenomenon that depended entirely on him. It had no power of its own. It was just a reflection. In that moment, he stopped being afraid. He walked home, and his shadow walked with him, but it was just his shadow. It had no power over him anymore. Our awareness is like the man in the story. The thoughts, the feelings, the sensations, the self, these are all like shadows. They seem solid, they seem threatening, they seem to pursue us. But when we stop running, when we stop hiding, when we turn and look at them with steady, mindful awareness, we see them for what they are. Insubstantial, dependent, powerless. They are just reflections in the mirror. And in that seeing, we are free. We are no longer the man afraid of his shadow. We are the open field, the clear moonlight, in which the shadow can appear without causing any fear at all. When the mind stops, when the grasping and the aversion cease, what is left? The Buddha said that no self remains. Not in a nihilistic sense, but in the sense that you no longer identify with the images. You have transcended the boundaries of the ego. You are like the mirror that knows it is a mirror. You reflect the world, but you are not attached to it. You are pure space, open and empty. You are just a mirror reflecting the vast, silent void. This is not a cold, empty state. It is a state of fullness. Because when you are no longer clinging to any particular sensation, you are free to experience all of them, fully, without fear. The beauty of the sunset is heightened because you are not trying to possess it. The pain of loss is felt, but it is not compounded by the terror of loss, because you know that this sensation too will pass. You are no longer a wave trying to be separate from the ocean. You are the ocean itself, knowing itself in every wave. This is the unbinding the Buddha spoke of. Nibbana. Not a place you go, but a realization you wake up to. The realization that you were never the wave. You were always the ocean. The realization that you were never the shadow. You were always the light. The realization that you were never the image in the mirror. You were always the mirror itself. And in that realization, there is peace. There is freedom. There is home. We have traveled a long way together tonight. We have explored the 6 doors of perception. We have sat with Elena and her lemon tart, discovering that taste is an event, not a thing. We have watched the carpenter George realize that his old anger was just residual inflammation, not a current attack. We have walked with David the photographer as he learned to see beauty in the neutral light. We have witnessed Susan the swimmer discover that she was not a fixed self but a flowing river. We have stood with the man who was terrified of his own shadow until he turned to face it and found it had no power over him. And we have seen ourselves in Michael the architect, so in love with our blueprints that we forgot to see the actual house being built before our eyes. These are not just stories. They are mirrors. And in each mirror, if you looked closely, you may have caught a glimpse of yourself. Your own struggles. Your own patterns. Your own moments of insight. Because the truth is, we are all living the same human journey. We are all confusing the map for the territory. We are all shooting second arrows of reaction on top of the first arrows of pain. We are all chasing pleasant sensations and fleeing unpleasant ones, exhausted by the endless pursuit. And we are all, every one of us, capable of waking up. So how do you take this with you when you leave this quiet space and return to the noise of your life? The Buddha's teaching is not meant to be an intellectual burden. It is meant to be a practical tool for living. Here is a simple practice. Just for one day this week, try to remember that you are living in a world of sensation. When you drink your morning coffee, do not just think coffee. Feel the sensation of the warmth in your hands. Feel the sensation of the aroma. Feel the sensation of the first sip. Is it pleasant? Just be with it. When you are stuck in traffic and you feel that familiar frustration rising, do not get lost in the story of stupid traffic and I am going to be late. Just feel the sensation. Feel the tightness in your chest. Feel the clenching of your jaw. That is it. It is just a sensation. An unpleasant one, yes. But just a sensation. Let it be there. Do not feed it with thoughts. Do not push it away. Just observe it. You might be surprised to find that it loses its power. It might even dissolve. When you are with someone you love, and they are speaking to you, try to listen on two levels. Listen to their words, the conventional reality of the conversation. But also, listen to the sensation in your own heart as they speak. Is it pleasant? Is it unpleasant? Is it neutral? And listen for the sensation behind their words. What is the feeling tone they are communicating, beneath the content? This is the path of the Dharma, friend. To be present with your own sensations, and to be present with the sensations of others. Not to fix them, not to judge them, but simply to hold space for them. To be the clear mirror that reflects without clinging. To be the open field where shadows can come and go without fear. This is the practice. It is a lifetime's work. But it begins with a single moment of awareness. This moment. Right now. What sensation is present? Just notice. That is all. As we bring our time together to a close here at Monk's Temple, I want to leave you with a word the Buddha used. He spoke of nibbana, or unbinding. It is often translated as enlightenment, but the word itself has a beautiful, practical meaning. It is like the moment a flame is released from its fuel. The flame does not go somewhere else. It simply ceases to be bound. It is free. We are like flames, bound to the fuel of our cravings, our aversions, our identifications. We are bound to the endless cycle of chasing pleasant sensations and fleeing unpleasant ones. We are bound to the story of me and mine. But the practice of mindfulness, of seeing reality as it is, as a flow of impersonal, impermanent sensations, is the beginning of unbinding. When you see a pleasant sensation without grasping it, the flame of craving is unbound, just for a moment. When you see an unpleasant sensation without resisting it, the flame of aversion is unbound. When you see a thought as just a thought, a mental sensation, and not as me or mine, the flame of ego is unbound. These moments of unbinding are moments of profound peace. They are moments when you are no longer a wave struggling against the ocean, but the ocean itself, vast and still. They are moments of just being. And these moments are available to you, right now, in the middle of your ordinary life. The Buddha said that the truth is here, now, in this very body, in these very sensations. You do not need to go to a mountain cave. You do not need to wait for a better life. The laboratory is open. The door is your own attention. Thank you for giving me the gift of your attention tonight. Thank you for being willing to explore these deep waters with me. May you find moments of unbinding in your own life. May you be a clear mirror for yourself and a gentle, present friend for others. May you know the peace that comes from seeing things as they really are. Until we meet again, from all of us at Monk's Temple, go well, go gently, go in peace.